On this day 2 years ago, people were dying in droves as BC suffered under unprecedented temperatures. The heat dome would last for days. The government faced a lot of criticism for its response to the extreme heat and made changes. But are they enough? Our Penny Daflos is here. And Penny, you put that question to the Premier.
Well, Nafisa, the heat dome was a tragedy for hundreds of BC families whose loved ones died horrifically in temperatures that exceeded 40 degrees in some areas. We have seen since then the establishment of a heat emergency alert response system and some other measures, but the Premier acknowledges it's still not quite enough. Exactly 2 years ago, BC's ambulance service essentially collapsed and our hospitals were inundated by people sickened by extreme temperatures.
I saw more patients with heat illness than I ever had in my entire career.
The anniversary of the fatal heat dome prompted a rally at the Premier's constituency office highlighting the human toll of climate change and severe weather.
Literally running from room to room, intubating patients, having seizures and unconscious from heat stroke.
A total of 619 people died in the record heat, most of them seniors, nearly all indoors. There was a catastrophic failure to communicate risk to the public, and the response plan
clearly was not sufficient,
with some actions coming after hundreds had already died.
We stood up our emergency operations center 24/7 on Tuesday.
The province cleaned house at BC EHS, but is still playing catch-up. The NDP is just now copying a free air conditioning program established last year in the U.S.
But what they did in Oregon tells us that the sizing of the program, the $10 million, is what we needed right now.
The pandemic had played a major role in the tragedy. The heat dome trapped hot air through the Canada Day long weekend when government was focused on lifting COVID restrictions.
We were a bit giddy at the prospect of saying goodbye to the emergency.
And the Premier at the time was dismissive of hot temperatures.
The public was acutely aware that we had a heat problem.
The very day John Horgan made these comments,
fatalities are part of life.
234 people were dying in sweltering conditions. Since then, the province has acted on many of the recommendations in a coroner's report, including a new warning system, which the current Premier supports.
I'm just wondering if you feel that the changes that we've already made are sufficient and what more you'd like to be able to see to respond to heat events that are literally life-threatening.
The work is certainly not done. We have a lot more work to do, but I want to reassure British Columbians that we're approaching it in a very systematic way, working through from the highest risk areas that require our first priority, and that is a key mandate and a reason for the establishment of the new ministry that takes on emergency response and climate resilience.
An important note, last year we didn't see temperatures as extreme as the heat dome, but 16 British Columbians still died from hyperthermia due to extreme heat.
So, Penny, have we learned enough lessons from that heat dome to avoid that level of human tragedy again?
You know, I wish I could say yes, but a couple hundred people died in a heat wave in 2009, and the lessons from that tragedy had been largely forgotten or faded by the time the heat dome rolled around. That being said, we are already seeing some long-term systemic changes to things like the building code, a focus on tree canopy to lead to cooling in a lot of neighborhoods, plus the establishment of heat as a criterion for the emergency text alert system. So that really does show that the risks of heat are being taken a lot more seriously, Nafisa.
All right, thank you, Penny.